So I will start getting this little annoying preamble out of the way, and then we can get started. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, general law, chapter 30A, section 18, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Southborough Historical Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found at the town website. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen to the meeting may do so in the following manner, going to southboroughtown.com remote meetings. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on Southborough's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. And then we can call the meeting to order, and I can remove my cat. Sorry. So we don't have the minutes from August, so we will do both of those next month. Treasurer's report.
Oh, good. Okay, so I'm on. I just yesterday submitted the most recent Spectrum bill, and I paid the most recent water bill for like $35. That's all I got. Literally, very exciting stuff. It's all taken care of, everything. The leftover water bill that I had emailed you all about, it's all taken care of. So we are up to date with all of our finances. So we're all taken care of. We're all set.
Great, great. So next is the fun part, to welcome Michael Wyson back to the commission. Hooray! We're all so happy.
This is a Vudeja all over again, right, Michael?
It's really nice that the pressure's off a little here. There's actually,
I know.
person.
It feels.
So now one of you can stick out, right?
I know.
If someone was sick, you could actually sleep.
Yes.
Instead of doing a historical commission meeting.
Yes, well, thank you all. Yes, this starts my 7th term. So
7th term. Whew.
7th term, yeah. If I complete this term, I will have served 21 years.
Holy mother.
Wow.
Good for you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
A glutton for punishment, everybody.
Well, we're glad that you are.
Yeah, indeed.
Well, I love all you guys, so glad to be back.
All right, so
time to move on because it's a long night, folks.
it is. Now, I'm not seeing the
We didn't invite
building.
Lori, mentioned about 7:30, so she may not try and get on until then.
Okay, let's move her then.
Is John Perrin around?
He is. Shall we?
Yeah.
Yes, because he asked me if it was possible if we could move him up in the agenda, and if that's all right with you guys, and if he's here and Lori's not,
I think that would be fine.
Would you like me to promote him to panelist?
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
set?
Thank you.
You all set?
we don't need a motion to do that, do we? To move the agenda? No? Okay.
Hi, John.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
By any chance, is Jason Malonowski out there in the audience as well?
He's here, but he is muted.
He is muted. Could we pull Jason in?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
There we go.
Can.
And,
All right.
And you do appear faceless, however.
I do not have an option to start my video like I typically do, to be honest with you.
I don't either. And yeah, that's weird.
That is
I think
weird.
you actually have to make us, what I've seen in
Oh, now we've just lost Jason.
They're being promoted to panelists. There we
Yeah.
go.
Yep. So
Okay.
you'll be able
You-
to see them if they turn their camera on.
Yep.
There we go.
There you are.
All set.
There's John, looking comfortable in the background.
Lovely.
Where are you?
Oh,
Can't hear
Oh,
you.
you're on
You're
mute,
muted.
honey. Turn on your
Unmute.
thing.
Unmute.
There we go. I'm up at the
Yeah.
Wachusett Reservoir.
Oh, of all the virtual backgrounds you could choose. Thought it
So
was
John, do
Italy.
you want me to start first and give the background before handing you the baton?
Yeah, that'd be great, Jason. Actually, do we have Lynn Spencer out there as well?
We do.
Well, there we go. Hi, Lynn. Jason, if you'd like to take it away, that's great.
Sure. So I know most of you, but for those of you that don't know, I'm Jason Malonsky. I'm the chair of the Capital Planning Committee. I know I have been communicating with Rebecca about South Union and appreciate the commission's feedback about what we're considering there in conjunction with the Board of Selectmen. But we have another topic for you, and in the spirit of what we've been trying to do with everything that our committee has been undertaking in the past 5 months or so that we've been together, is trying to build a spirit of collaboration and feedback upfront, as opposed to, you know, getting dissent or constructive feedback at the final hours going into any sort of town meeting vote, and really trying to encapsulate everyone's feedback that may be a stakeholder in any project that we're anticipating. And I think what you're going to find is there's a lot coming down the pike, especially as we look forward to the 2021 annual town meeting. Hopefully the health situation continues and we can all have fruitful debate. But what we're here tonight on is specifically the townhouse. When the Capital Planning Committee originally met and started to inventory our buildings and what needed to be done in the next 5 to 10 years, there was a series of items in the townhouse in the next 5-ish years, and there was like one project every year. And we quickly worked with John to say, we didn't like that approach because there's absolutely no economies of scale to that. And that was just John trying to space out the actual, how would I put it, the actual money every year, and try to respect other projects that may be going on in the town, et cetera. And where we landed was we thought it was in the best interest of the town to approach all the exterior work that had to be done for the town, both exterior in terms of facade renovation, and more specifically the windows, as one project. Have one contractor, one architect, one OPM oversee the entire process all at once, as opposed to doing one side of the building one year, then another side the next year, and having a lot of variables that we didn't want to control. And ultimately for us as taxpayers, right, that's what's going to get us the best deal, right? We're going to go out to bid once and do this all together. So what you're going to hear from John and Lynn tonight is going to be, what the full project would look like. And I think what we're seeking from your commission, and it may be tonight, it may be in a future meeting, but we don't want it to drag on, too long, is any feedback you have from your perspective to allow us to put the best application forward to CPC and ultimately bring that to town meeting floor. I think the key thing that you're going to hear tonight, right, is this has been done with the intent of preserving the building. And we've already gotten the consent to the Board of Selectmen that they would support such a preservation. So we would be, seeking CPC funding around this on a historic preservation restriction. And I think that's really important, right? Because I think thinking back to some of the other projects that we've had recently in town, right, that preservation restriction has been candidly a topic of much debate. Our committee has not heard that. And when you think about that building in particular, we're talking about in terms of that townhouse, that's the building that you see in pictures of this town more often than not, right? And I think that the consensus building around that is we wanted to do what was right to preserve that building and bring forward a responsible project that way from a CPC perspective, as opposed to just fixing the issues and not doing it with a historic lens or preservation lens, and just, getting them better windows or getting them a better HVAC system, et cetera. So that's the genesis of where we're at tonight. The goal after tonight is to get feedback from all of you. If you're so inclined to write a letter of support to CPC, we think that will help the application. And then we are going to be submitting it to CPC in line with their, I love how my kids turned off my light as we were talking, by the way. But bring forward that to CPC and hope that they would bring that article to town meeting. Of course, if they deny the application for any way, we would have to go back to the drawing board of how we would fund it, because we don't think there's a heck of a lot of funding available through general fund, given other projects that we're looking at. So I'll pause there, hand it to John, who will introduce Lynn and anything else he wants to add to my brief introduction. But I figured it was important to give you our perspective from capital planning before launching into the nitty-gritty details.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, Jason. Hi, everyone. Earlier this year, the town engaged the services of the architecture and preservation firm, Spencer, Sullivan, and Vaught, to conduct a conditions assessment at the townhouse. The assessment looked at various elements that make up the building exterior structure. During the process, various items were identified as either needing repair, restoration, or replacement in this process. This evening, preservationist Lynn Spencer has graciously joined us to discuss the findings of the before mentioned assessment and the related restorative strategies for which we are asking for your historical commission support. With that, I am going to yield the floor to Ms. Spencer.
Well, thank you very much, John. But before I get rolling, I would like to ask the chairman to invite Sean Willett, who should be in a waiting room,
Absolutely.
because he has the PowerPoint presentation. Otherwise, you'll just be seeing my smiling face. And I don't think that's all you want to hear or see.
All right. Can we promote him to a panelist?
Sure.
Thank you.
There he is. Perfect.
All
Hi,
right.
Sean. Welcome.
It's good to have the keys sometimes that lets you in. I got the
So,
PowerPoint.
and then the phone rings. So we were just introduced, Sean, by both Jason Malonsky, who is the chairman of the Capital Campaign, or what is it? What's your chairmanship, Jason?
Capital Planning Committee.
Capital Planning. So Jason gave some background as to what they were up to. I'm about to throw this out the window. And then John gave us a nice little introduction, but here we are introducing ourselves. So our firm specializes in the preservation and rehabilitation of existing buildings. Most of our work is historic. And in fact, we may be known to you through the work that we've done at St. Mark's, where we've worked with them first on a conditions assessment and then on the first phase of the tower restoration project. And that was our introduction to Southborough. We then were introduced to John, who saw that we have the kind of experience and the commitment to working closely with clients that led us to do an assessment of the public library building. And over a year ago, I spoke with your town meeting in support of the community preservation grant that is now funding preservation and rehabilitation work on that building, with construction about to start in about a week. So, you know, there's been we've had some experience in Southborough, let's put it that way. So we turn now to the slideshow. If you could share the screen, Rebecca, that would be helpful, or whoever's in charge of the screen.
I'll try. I should have permission.
You should share yours. Otherwise, you'll just.
You should be all set.
All right.
So I will tell you, we are going to take you on a tour of this building, but it's probably a building that all of you know in one way or another. We have come to know it by the conditions assessment that we did under the direction of John in the month of August. It's a handsome building. Does everyone know the name of the architect? Maybe we should go to that slide next so we can see who it is. So Alexander Este had a long career as an architect, working first. He was a lifelong member or resident of Framingham. He is well known for his work on churches, and in fact, he was the designer of St. Mark's Church in Southborough, and on another church that our firm has had a long association with, the Emmanuel Church in Boston, where we've served as the historical architects for the last 6 years. But here are his renderings, his drawings of your townhouse, which you all may have seen are located in framed prints or framed prints in the front entry of the town hall. This tells us that the building that you know today is quite a faithful construction based on those drawings. Sometimes there's variation in the process of going from what's on a page to what's in construction. But this is a building you well know for its value to the community. Can we go to the next slide, Sean? For the most part, there's been relatively little done in terms of changes to this building. In 1996, there was an addition at the rear elevation, which allowed an elevator as part of the access and sort of interior reuse of the space. There was improvements, freshening up of space, some reallocation of rooms and so on. But I would say that this building has had quite a light hand when it comes to rehabilitation or changes or alterations. There's a great deal of architectural and historical integrity embodied in what you know today. In spite of this image, where it's thoroughly covered with bunting for a fabulous, I'm not sure what the occasion was, but it's quite a bunting job.
The arrival of Teddy Roosevelt.
Oh, was it? Oh, interesting. I happen to live in
You owe us a commission on that picture. That's copyrighted.
Yeah, okay. Got it. We'll want to do something about it, but it's your report, so we'll accept it that way.
Yeah, but you can see Teddy as a Rough Rider in the center panel.
Oh yes, okay. Well, Teddy Roosevelt also visited our little town where I am, also involved as a member of a historical commission and chair of the Community Preservation Committee, which is the town of Nahant. But I think that's a wonderful image. Our task was to look at the building envelope, and to do that, we went from the rooftop down to the ground and all around. So we're going to now take you on a tour of what we saw and observed and discuss the recommendations that we have offered to the town. One of the things that we started with immediately were the walls and what was going on with the walls. This building is built with a wonderful, hard, water-struck red brick with very handsome sandstone trimmings. And for the most part, there's a lot that has survived with the surface textures intact in terms of the sandstone. You see from the image on the left side that the brickwork has had some selective repointing over time, oftentimes with varying colors of mortar, and quite honestly, pretty hard mortars, which can be tough on a 19th century water-struck brick. Our recommendation is that that we tackle the repointing of the entire building, removing the hard, inappropriate, later or recent mortars, and utilizing a mortar that is based on the original composition. As far as the sandstone goes, you'll see on this slide and in the next slide that where the sandstone is in close proximity to the ground and has experienced splashback from drainage and so on, we're seeing some erosion on the face of that sandstone. So on the left-hand image, you can see the sort of texture that was provided when they fashioned this stone. On the right-hand image, you're seeing some of the erosion, some of the spalling that has occurred from high moisture content in the sandstone. Salts exit and the stone starts to face off. Sean, can you go to the next slide, please? We are cautious about how much sandstone replacement is needed here. In most cases, we're suggesting that we accept the erosion as part of the natural aging process of a building and accept that as patina, as we see on the right-hand side. In the left-hand image, we've got a somewhat different situation where you see the entablature and there's a sort of a molded piece of sandstone beneath it that is very heavily eroded to the extent of fairly significant loss. This could be an area of replacement stone where we would recommend replacing that stone with a stone that has the same sort of color and texture as the original stone. We also suggest to eliminate that erosion, it would make sense to actually cut in a drip line along the edge of, and Sean is skillfully showing this, along that edge that would prevent, which would allow the water to actually not sort of roll over onto the stone and sit there, but in fact would drip effectively. And we've talked with we work very often with very skilled masons, and we've talked with them about the practicality of doing that, that sort of cut into the stone, and it is a doable thing to do. That would preserve the entablature intact, but would actually promote better drainage. So if we go to the very top of the building, we've got a different situation. We do retain the 5 original chimneys that Este had designed. However, we see that in fact, if you compare Este's drawing with what's there today, those chimneys were either not built as he designed it, or in fact have been rebuilt in later times. Of the 5, 2 of them have been recently repointed, but there are 3 of them that need significant repointing. You're also looking at the upper section of the roof, which is a membrane roof, which is about 5 years past its normal, life cycle. And you're also observing that there's crickets and so on that help promote drainage at the chimneys. Next slide, please. Next, Sean.
Oh, there's a bit of a delay.
Sorry. All right. Sorry. So there we also see that, well, we have a flat roof at the top. We have hip roofs that go down to gutters. And again, those asphalt shingles, which probably replaced originally slate shingles, slate tiles, are at the end of their service life. So we are suggesting that it's time to replace not only the membrane roof, but the asphalt shingle roofs and redo the gutters at the same time. The downspouts that you see are copper downspouts. They have seams that are starting to open up. And again, it makes sense to promote good roof drainage by installing new conductors. Those pipes go underground to as yet an uncertain sort of drainage situation. We have suggested that they could be cameraed so we can understand what's going on there. It's probably a series of dry wells for each of those downspouts. So let's look at the next set of slides. So the original entrance was redone in 1996. It was an interpretation of the original entrance. You can see that the drawing in the middle, as well as the photograph of the bunting building above. So that interpretation is interesting because they retained the sort of rails and stiles and the sort of curved top configuration of the door, but instead of having solid panels as it was originally, it's glazed. And there's a utility to that allows light to come into the space. But what we have seen is that the oak veneer doors, which were redone in 1996, the veneers have started to lift. The finishes are very poor. The problem with a clear finish on a door like this is that you practically have to stain every year or to finish it every year to retain the integrity of the wood. So these doors are, this pair of doors is at the point that they should be replicated in kind because the veneers are beyond retrieval. Other doors on the building need to be simply, minor repairs and painting.
Excuse me, Lynn, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So are you suggesting retaining the glassed in doors as opposed to replacing them to the original solid doors?
Well, we think that that's a discussion that should take place. We've had some discussion with John about this, but we do understand that the glazing allows light into the space, and there's a usefulness to that. I think it could be a discussion either way, quite honestly, but the door should be replaced.
Is they use that interior space, if I'm not correct, for
They do.
like, activities and things? Yeah.
They do. So there's a usefulness to that. And I think what is always good to remember with a building like this is things evolve. This building probably was originally heated with a coal-fired heating system. It now has, a hot water system, and it has air conditioning, as we see by all the condensers that are on the west side of the building. So I think we allow for a certain amount of evolution, but respecting the traditions of the past. And I think this door pretty much does that. Now, here we come to the point that Jason and John were mentioning earlier, and that are the windows. We work a lot with historic buildings. We work very often with the struggles that are involved with historic windows. And in some cases, we've worked on restoring windows. In this case, with the townhouse windows, we are recommending a very deliberate effort to create windows that are energy efficient, are functional, respect the historic design, but would be replicated using thermal glazing. And we think that that is part of a way of ensuring usefulness as well as energy efficiency and sustainability. So let's look at these windows. These are truly monumental windows, very large, 10 feet at the upper levels. Those are 10-foot tall windows, 3 feet wide. You're seeing a detail of some of their conditions today. Glazing is coming apart. There's heavy paint buildup, a lot of lead paint, and we're seeing some of the corners starting to open up at those joints. To deal with energy efficiency today, exterior storm windows have been installed, And they are, for the most part, have created a situation where it's very hard for people to open their interior windows and reach out and activate the exterior storm windows. This is some of the condition that we see on the inside of the building. What these windows offer us by their monumental size is the ability to reproduce them using the same glazing pattern and the sticking or the molding profiles as the original, but glaze them with glass that is thermal pane in a true divided light situation. You know, I know that there had been discussions about replacing them with modern windows, such as an aluminum window, or even possibly a vinyl window. There had been discussions about various storm window configurations, but in the end, in the discussion with the design team and our client, we feel that a thermoglazed window repeating the historic glazing pattern and the moldings is a reasonable approach for this building. In fact, is a desired approach. I have said to John earlier today that, you know, the problem with these windows is they've been so often painted and repaired and painted and repaired that if you use the analogy of windows as being the eyes of a building, these windows have too much makeup on them. They have gotten to the point where their service life is challenged. So if we can go on to the next one, please. I want to give you some examples of work that we've been involved with. This is the Northbridge Public Library. In this case, windows that were in pretty poor condition were in fact restored. And you're seeing the before and the after on this side. That is certainly an option that we had looked at here, but as I said, we felt there were reasons to go another route. Next slide, please. We're just wrapping up the Princeton Town Hall, and in this case, we worked with the team and came up with this solution. We are, in fact, replicating the windows. Those are the window on the right is a brand new window. And in fact, that window will then be protected with an exterior low profile storm window. This seemed like a reasonable approach here, given the size of the windows. I think it's a little bit more difficult with the size of the windows that you've got at the Southborough Townhouse. Next slide.
Lynn, can I ask a question again before we get just too far away?
Sure.
Can we go back 2 slides, please?
Mm-hmm.
So this window was restored.
Mm-hmm.
Why would that treatment not be? You mentioned that there were reasons that was not applicable to our situation. Why was that not applicable to our situation?
I think that because of the utility of the ability to open and close the windows with relative ease. These windows are fixed shut. They're never opened or closed.
I see. Okay.
It's a public library, and so that seemed like a reasonable approach.
Got it. So these are just totally fixed. That's it.
Yeah, and that's why I said, you know, part of what we're looking at here is functionality. We have folks in their offices who want to be able to open and close the windows. And right now you actually have a nearly impossible situation for doing that. There are technical challenges to, and we'll just go on, there are technical challenges to working with windows such as your townhouse, but they are achievable. These are just details of the Princeton windows where they have been replicated using the original sticking or molding profiles as well as the joinery. So we would be proposing to do the same thing for the Southborough Townhouse. Same profiles, same glazing patterns, same joinery, with with, and here you're seeing what one of the sort of key parts of what makes these windows work well is when you also have good weather stripping and good sash weights. So in this particular case, we happen to be working with Kronenberger and Sons, who were the low bidders on this project. This is a public bid project, such as yours would be. And they happen to be experts in replication as well as repair of historic windows. So they were a very good team to work with.
Could you repeat that company name? Cronin, what, please?
Kronenberger and Sons. They're out of
BERG.
Connecticut.
Thank you.
There are a few companies that we have worked with who are able to make custom-made reproduction windows. This is not a situation for a Marvin or a Pella, quite honestly. But companies like Kronenberger or Historic Window and Doors or the Cooper Group are, and there are probably half a dozen more, are capable of doing that. These are just an example to show you of what a thermal glazing looks like in a true divided light window. What we would be recommending is that the space between the two panes of glass be colored dark so it doesn't have the reflectivity that aluminum does have, and the one on the left has that reflectivity, the one on the right has that dark, so it has been basically painted dark in between. How did this all, after we did the initial sort of assessment and we're working through the recommendations, what you're now seeing as part of our report, and it's about a 22-page report, it has been submitted to the town, is the recommendations are then synthesized and put on these drawings. So Sean was critical to, noting everything that the team had observed. And that team, by the way, consisted of Sean Willett, who's running this right now, but is a talented architect working on this, along with Doug Manley in my office, who is a senior associate, and myself as the principal for historic preservation. So all of this gets synthesized, boiled together. Just to remind you, we're looking at from top to bottom. So roof replacement, complete repointing of the building, some sandstone work to restore and retain it, and then new windows with thermal glazing, replicating the appearance of the original, and the same with the front door as well. We would also strongly suggest that paint analysis be conducted so that the new windows and the painting of the trim, because there's going to be repair of the brick moldings, would be based on the historic colors. All right, so now let's get to the dollars and cents. So we actually then identified each of these items, item by item, based on construction categories, masonry. I love the category thermal and moisture, but that is really the roofing category, windows and openings. And we divided this up into a series of phases. And Jason mentioned this earlier. We felt that there was approximately $1.4 million of urgent work that needed to be done in the next year or two. And then we could sort of stagger things out over time in, 4 phases, which could occur over a series of years. But the reality with that is that costs will simply escalate, as in fact deterioration will also escalate. So you'll have this combination of rising costs on either side of the equation. So we understand that you are now looking at, as opposed to 4 phases divided over a period of time, you're looking at the possibility of a combined construction project which should be budgeted at $2.2 million plus. And that's what this chart basically describes to you. So I appreciate your indulgence in a long description of what this study was all about. As we see in this building, now that I understand that Teddy Roosevelt is being celebrated, and I now can see his face on the large screen here, it is a building certainly to celebrate. It's a building to preserve, and it's a building to live in and to make work successfully for everyone who works there and visits there. So thank you for listening.
Lynn, thank you so much for the presentation. It was really very detailed and very helpful and very impressive. Thank you, Sean. That's really terrific. I have a few questions, but I'm sure the rest of the members have some as well. Regarding the windows, you know, I think you probably have been made aware that we did have an assessment done in 2014 by an architect who specializes also in historical preservation, and he recommended a restoration. So I wonder if you could give a little more detail as to why you would replicate rather than restore.
I think it has to do with functionality for, a lot of it has to do with functionality for those both living and working in the building and looking after the building. And this is part of the problem with quite large windows because of the need to remove panels, store them, lean over desks to lift up the windows. So, you know, it's something that can go either way. You know, each side of it has pros and cons, quite honestly.
What is the cost difference?
Well, this is what's interesting because I was checking on this today. You know, I want to tell you that the costs that we had put together were based on our experience with similar projects very close to this time. And we happened to be working, for instance, in Princeton on that project. So I had really up to minute cost at my fingertips. And we had also reached out to that company to help us with the cost estimating. So quite honestly, the costs are relatively the same when you factor in the restoration of the sash plus a storm window, a low profile storm window that actually works.
Right.
Part of the problem with storm windows is after a while, they don't work well. So in terms of the conventional triple hung or double hung windows, we oftentimes, there's like one company that makes a really good storm window, and that's Allied. You probably know that already. And they're not inexpensive. So I was looking at contemporary costs for replication as well as the storm windows. And I compare that with what we were getting for the cost of reproducing a new window. And they are exactly the same. Approximately $9,000 per window opening.
Wow.
One of the problems we ran into, Rebecca, is down at the South Union. As you know, they restored the windows probably about 12, 13 years ago now, I guess it would be. And they did go with the restoration and the storm window. And quite honestly, it's been an absolute nightmare. The storm windows are extremely heavy. I had one employee that I'm lucky he didn't guillotine his finger off, actually. And again, with the way the townhouse is situated with the office space, to get to the windows itself, you know, you can do. But if you have to start factoring in storm windows on top of that, it becomes quite troublesome. And if we went with an exterior storm window, even with the low profile, you're kind of covering your new window or your restored window. This, we feel, gives us the benefit of energy efficient windows that are functional and have that appearance. It looks like it belongs there.
What are can you run down the materials used in the replicated windows?
Sure. I mean, part of what we look at is durability. So we are using mahogany. You know, I was, if you will, brought up as by working at the Society for the Preservation of New England Antiquities. I was the director of properties there for about 16 years. And, you know, the mantra was always, you know, replace in kind, same species, same profile, same. But unfortunately, what we're finding is that we can't get old growth pine, and that's what these windows were made of. So we go to what's a durable, weather resistant window. And it feels even uncomfortable to be saying mahogany when you think about the rainforest right now, but that's what we're up to. We're using either mahogany or Spanish cedar. And then we're treating them, you know, they get treated, pre-treated, primed, double coats of paint. It makes for a heavy, durable window. And I think that's what we're saying, you know, buy yourself the next 150, 160
Right.
years.
Yeah.
What about some type of composite?
Well, you mean like AZAC?
I mean, like Isaac, you know, so, you know, full disclosure, as I run a landscape architecture firm, and so we have transitioned to this in a lot of ways. As you know, the technology has really come a long, long way in the last few years. And, you know, as someone who, like you, has been an ardent historic preservationist, but who is also weighing the costs of ripping down rainforests to provide mahogany windows, you know, I think that the shift is starting to move in the direction of thinking about these composites, especially as they come of age. So, I mean, just as a question.
Yeah, no, I think it's an interesting thing. I should have said so quickly, what do you mean about AZAC? AZAC is something, I remember talking with a manufacturer's rep. I said, how do you fix AZAC? I mean, you with a wood window, you can make a repair. He said to me, well, you get a blowtorch out and it sort of combines, it fills back into space. I said, well, that's interesting. So certainly we watch these materials. I mean, we all have to be looking at what are the responsible things for us to do right now when it comes to the care of our buildings. And we'll certainly, you know, want to look at that. I can't say I know of a material offhand right now that I could confidently say, you know, put that on to the table and we'll work with it. But we'll certainly keep looking for it, Michael.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's all about the profile and the appearance. It's less about the actual material.
Well, I mean, but you could say the same thing about aluminum, and we could do this in aluminum, but it's very different.
Well, no, I mean, you know, aluminum, you know, ratty tap tap. I get aluminum, but I certainly would love to explore whatever we could in terms of composites, because it's just, you know, I know there's farmed mahogany. I know that there's supposedly certified mahogany.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
Yeah, no,
I was listening to Lindsey Graham today, so you know, it's like I don't believe anything anybody says.
So,
Don't do that.
So farm mahogany, yeah, right. You know, quote me on that.
No.
The only
Lynn,
thing
can
I'd
you-
be careful of with a composite material is generally a lot of expansion and contraction with temperature. And where these windows are so big, that is something you would want to avoid. I made the mistake of using some composite on my house in some very long runs. Yeah, cold temperatures and hot temperatures are not the best thing. That expansion contraction, especially in a window structure, could allow for the infiltration of weather. I would shy away from it on something this big. These are really mammoth windows.
Lynn, what wood were you looking at for the door, just out of curiosity?
For the front door?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would say this. I'm not a big fan of a clear finished veneer door. You could hear me saying that. So I would actually, if you want to keep that in a glazed fashion, and I think there's utility for that, I would again use probably mahogany. And I actually would paint it. Part of the reason why, and Sean, I forgot to say it, but Sean and I talked about putting the image on, you know, the Teddy Roosevelt image. Well, if you look at that, you'll see that that door is a dark color.
Yeah.
And I suspect that it was, you know, black or, you know, as bottle green or something like that. So I would actually, my recommendation is painted wood.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's totally correct too. I'm sure it was painted the same color as the trim. Or
Well, actually, in that image, it was interesting, Michael, because it was dark while the windows were light. And my guess is, it's only a guess, but I have a pretty good instinct that if we were to do the painted analysis, you see that the windows would be probably colored this something similar to the sandstone color, because you would want that to all sort of look like, you know, a unified appearance. It would be very intriguing to do that paint analysis, and really should be done.
is that a big deal to do that paint analysis?
No, it's, you know, it's having somebody come out to actually do it. We work a lot of the time with a guy named Bill Finch, who is very reasonable cost-wise and very good.
Reasonable meaning?
Oh, to do the paint analysis on this building is, you know, $3,000 to $4,000.
Wow, okay.
John, what is the deadline for submitting the CPC application?
I believe it was October 13th. I'd have to go grab an email, but I believe it was October 13th, that one.
That's correct, John. That's at least what they're looking towards.
Anyone else have any questions or comments?
Kate Battles, what about you? You work in that building all the time.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing that came up for me is that I think that, especially on that front door, I'm in there a ton, right, John?
Yeah, you need the light.
We need the light in there.
You need the light.
Yes. So I would definitely say, I think a ton of people, and it carries right upstairs. So I'm all for historical accuracy too, but I think in this case, we definitely would need the light on that front door. That I would push for that.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. You're hoping for a letter of support, John?
Yes, that would be great.
I am not entirely sure if we're ready to vote. I'd like to get an idea if the other members feel they have enough information.
Well, I have one important question, which was always the bugaboo about this, and Lynn, you could probably tell us. There was some discussion that replacing these windows would make this ineligible for the National Register. So yay or nay on that question?
Nay. And you'll be able to go on the National Register as long as you reproduce them.
Right.
As long as you reproduce them and you know, you pay attention to the materials and the fabrication and so on. Yeah, I will say this. I was a little bit surprised when I started working at St. Mark's Church that, you know, there wasn't in fact a townwide survey even, at least at that point. This was a few years ago. I think it would make sense. I mean, you have a historic district right in front of you with the townhouse, St. Mark's on one side, the Pilgrim Congregational Church, and the library. I mean, the library,
well, there's a National Register district pending.
It is pending.
Yeah, it is pending. Okay, good.
It's pending, but it's been pending forever.
It takes a while.
It takes a while, and unfortunately, our dear friend Kate Madison, now deceased, was the person who was really spearheading that. So
I remember her. Yeah, 2 years is nothing to getting one of these through. And we work with the town of Groton. We've had a nomination pending first at Mass Historical Commission for a solid 2 years and another year in Washington.
well, I think it's been longer than 2 years, frankly, but
Okay.
you know, we'll see where that is. But that's a story for another day.
I
Yeah.
bet. I'm sure
Well,
it is.
I definitely I want to thank you for coming. I think we have some other people waiting, and I'd like to move through that before the commission members take some time to discuss. But thank you very much.
Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Nice-
Sean and
nice
I will depart, but we appreciate this opportunity. And thanks, John, for inviting us to this party. It's always good.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, Lynn. Thanks, Sean.
Thank
Okay.
you, as usual.
Thanks
Love-
very much, everyone.
Bye.
Well done.
Thank you.
That was terrific. Okay. Demolition, let's see here. Do we have? Yes, we do have the building commissioner. So I think let's move ahead with item 4 on the agenda, the demolition permit process and discussions. Hi, Lori. You need to unmute. Oh, there we go.
Hi, how are you?
I'm all right, thank you. Did you want permission
can't
for
see you.
video?
If you must.
Lori's
Oh, wait.
promoted. Oh, where'd she go?
Oh, I'm sorry, I messed it up. Bring her back.
What did you do, Rebecca?
Severe Zoom fatigue. All right,
All right.
unmute, and then we just need,
I just asked her to start video. So.
okay, good, thank you. I'm not gonna, I'll stop pushing buttons.
No, that's okay.
I hit it. Can you hear me?
We can
I
hear
can
you.
hear you. Can't see you yet.
I don't,
You're
I
still,
hit the
you're still a big,
video.
you're still a big black square. This is like Hollywood Square's gone bad.
I don't know why. It asks, it's on my screen.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's
it should be.
going on from here too. So
It is.
Oh.
Strange.
blocking your camera. Or...
No.
There should be a little camera icon you can undo.
I don't know.
Or are you like me with a little thing stuck on, little sticky on top of your camera most times?
No, I like that, but no, I'm not. And I apologize in advance if my dogs start barking.
No, I got one too, so don't worry about it.
So,
That's
I
fine,
guess-
whatever.
we can. We
Yeah,
should
I
start with-
apologize. I don't know why the light's on and everything. I'll see if I hit something else. This is a new laptop.
Nothing I can see on this end.
It seems to think it's on.
Yeah, if you go into your video settings, Lori, is anything down there?
Yeah, I haven't used Zoom on this laptop yet.
Yeah, maybe because it could be looking towards your rear camera, maybe
Oh, okay.
switching it to your front camera. So next to start video, there's a like a triangle upside down.
Got it. No. It says start, stop. Videos. What should I go under? I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So if you clicked on the triangle, there's, I see an option for front camera, rear camera, and then video settings. So you could try clicking front camera or rear camera to see if that makes a difference.
I have a widescreen original ratio. That's all. Integrated web. See if there's something else. No.
I'm sorry, I'm not terribly
Oh,
in terms of.
No, but I can touch up my appearance if I want.
Well, you can go
Oh.
from a black square to a slight.
Yeah, exactly.
Black square.
Oh, wait. There's something new up in the corner. Rotate 90 degrees.
Oh, now you're a rotated black square.
Oh my God, what the heck?
That's all
The
right.
thing is, if it was actually working, it would show what was in front. So
That's all right. Can
Oh,
we just,
well,
I think
let's
we
take
should just
this
go
off.
on.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah,
So
I don't know.
So hello, Black Square.
Wait, do not see any video. I'm gonna do troubleshooting. Oh, hello.
We wanted to go over a couple of things, I think, tonight. Now we have 45 Highland Street to discuss, and also just the sort of the demo delay process in general and how you know, permits are handled through the building department, and what, you know, how, just to make sure that we're on the same page and we understand the process.
No, absolutely.
Can you give us a rundown on what kind of like the timeline with 45 Highland, how that progressed?
So we received an online permit. I can't remember the dates, probably back in June. Basically saying they're going to take first and second interior partitions and remodel it. And I got no other information. And I said, can you please upload some plans? And they said, well, they uploaded something. And I said, well, there's no framing plans on here. And they said, well, can we just start with the demolition because we don't know what we need structurally, which is typical a lot, you know, as far as what exactly they need because it's an older home. And I said, yes, you can start with the demo. We had gotten many calls on it. And everybody we told, we mentioned that it was in the demo, you know, demo delay, which we do. We always check, especially, you know, just because, you know, a lot of people don't know. And this was somebody who was definitely a flipper, which we found out after the fact. It wasn't somebody I had ever seen. So we gave them the demo only, and then all, you know, for what they had said they were going to need it for. And then the next thing we know, a third of it is down, except that portion if you're facing it on the right-hand side.
Oh, at least a third, yeah.
Yeah, at least a third. I mean, I don't know what the exact square footage was. So at that, and then at that point, I had gotten a call just because they were a mess. It was a messy site, and you know, the next door neighbor just happened to be was worried about debris and things like that on their property. So I talked to the GC several times, went by there several times, and then they were looking. And at this point, you know, they were looking for the building permit, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. And I went back because I do get a lot of permits and did a little bit more research. And I said, and I told them they went above and beyond what they were supposed to do in both historic and they're non-conforming, so that they need to go to the zoning board of appeals. On top of that, they're non-conforming by setbacks and frontage and things like that. So right now they're in the process of that. I waited till I knew I'm going to probably want to talk about this tonight. And it all kind of just came together in the last week or so. They haven't been very responsive until today when Katie Barry, the ZBA admin, told them they had until tomorrow to submit. And then they responded and asked for the information once again, which we've given them for that 3 times. So that's where that stands. I haven't put a stop worker on it because they haven't done anything else. Then they don't have a permit to do anything else. So
I was there today. I went to go take a look at it.
Mm-hmm.
They've demolished illegally 7/8 of that house. That house was clearly on the covered by the demolition delay bylaw. I mean, there's nothing left. I mean, I shared the photos with the commission members earlier. I mean, there's nothing left except the foundation and some framings from a 1980s edition. So, you know, obviously this is something that we have to discuss, but from my opinion, they are in complete violation with the demolition delay bylaw, and they should be told to cease and desist. And then frankly, the penalty for ripping down a structure without permission is a 2-year stay of any permitting on that property, regardless of owner. The law was very specific on this, that you can't come rip down these structures. You can't say they pulled a permit. We looked at the permit. It said it was not a demolition permit for demolition of the house. The house is now gone. It was an 1870 structure, and which had been moved, interestingly, to that position from the corner. So it may even be a little.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so now this structure is gone. And I don't know what to tell. I helped write this bylaw. So when we put that penalty clause in there, it was pretty severe to say that if you went ahead and ripped down this structure, you're dead in the water for 2 years.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
So
yeah.
No building, no zoning, no permitting. They don't need to go to the ZBA. They don't need to do anything because
Right, that's true.
Yeah.
You're right. I didn't even know.
Any permit at all for 2 years, which they can continue to pay taxes on. It's astounding.
Yes.
I don't even know how to go about this. That that these folks went in and demolished the entire house into 2 huge dumpsters.
Mm-hmm.
I don't disagree.
So, I guess that, having never had this happen before, I'm not quite sure what the precedents are. Rebecca, I'm not even quite sure what the vote should be. And how this would go.
And do we have, the bylaw is clear, and I think it's up to the commissioner to enforce. From my reading of it, is a vote required?
Well, maybe a consensus vote, at least, in the reading of this thing, but it seems pretty clear. If these folks go ahead and demolish a structure, they're stopped. So they don't need to be worrying about ZBA or anything else.
And if just for the benefit of anybody that doesn't have it in front of them or haven't had a chance to read it, 63-7 enforcements and remedies. No building permit shall be issued with respect to any premises upon which a significant building has been voluntarily demolished in violation of this bylaw for a period of 2 years after the date of the completion of such demolition. I don't think it could be any clearer, in my opinion. Should we?
The only question I had was that since we weren't given the chance to vote on its significance, do we need to vote on its significance now?
That's
Are there any other homes on that street that are similar?
Well,
it's
all those buildings were built at about the same time as in response to the rise of St. Matthews and the Corderville Manufacturing Company. So, by and large, they all date from the same time of the industrial development of that part of Southville. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I was just so appalled I didn't have anything else to add to this, because there's demolition and then there's like stone foundation. And the interesting thing is that house was built on a ledge. So there's actually no foundation. There's just a foundation wall, but the whole thing below it is stone. So how you're going to get a septic, how you would get, I have no idea.
correct. They didn't go through, obviously, any other departments for approvals because they were only supposedly taking down some walls in the interior. I was never called. All I was told is that they would get back to me with structurals, and then never saying that it couldn't be saved. So
I'm wondering if this is a situation where town council should be involved.
yes and no. I mean, I can do, I mean, it's cease and desist, yes, stop work order, yes. I mean, there's nothing more that I can do. But I would definitely follow through on a certified letter, letting them know the steps that they need to take or not take, obviously, that they can't do anything for 2 years. I believe there was something similar to maybe a home on Corderville. Somebody might have mentioned to me that same before I started, that might have been taken down, similar situation.
Not to my knowledge. And I go a long way back into the 90s with some gaps.
Okay.
Some notable gaps.
I just remember something with maybe there was who had a fire. Was there a home that had a fire and
a cottage.
Rebuild it or something? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've ever had anyone just come and tear down a house without the proper demolition permit.
No.
So Rebecca, the only question I have, and this I do think maybe we need to ask for the advice of town council, is whether or not we need to vote that property historically significant, because the bylaw does say of significant property.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
but if a demo permit's never, I don't think we were anticipating in the bylaw that someone would tear it down without a permit.
No, and again, normally the demolition delay for the significant requires public notice, blah 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 blah.
Exactly. Yeah.
But now the building's gone.
Right.
So I do think maybe Aldo we should ask.
Yeah.
Because essentially you're telling these people that they're holding that property and paying taxes on it for 2 years, with no hope of doing anything with it, even if they sell it.
I'm just curious, Lori, what happens if people demolish a building without a demolition permit, regardless of the historical involvement? What is the penalty for that? What is the process?
Never really happened. It would be go through the same thing, double fee, like doing any other permit, and depending on if it was conforming or non-conforming, and it would you have to go through their conservation and every other department.
I mean, if I decided to tear down my house tomorrow, what's the penalty for that?
We don't have a form of fining for building, only for zoning. And I don't know, this is a demo delay is a general bylaw, it's not a zoning bylaw. So I don't have a means besides double feeing for something like that for a building permit. That would be the only, and if it would, depending if it was a construction supervisor, I could take them to the state, and hold their license and have a hearing on that, that they did it, obviously without, plenty of people do things without building permits all the time, but obviously not taking a whole home down. There's too many other safety things that go along with that.
I'm curious why they didn't finish the job and take down the addition, because honestly, my first impression was that perhaps they thought they weren't demolishing it if they left up those few pieces.
Right. When I first went by, I was concerned about the safety, and then I saw
that's what I'm wondering. Yeah,
it was attached to the I saw the electrical attached. And I said, what are you doing? Because in a full house demolition, I get a utility sign off from gas and electric and fire for oil. And
I guess, is this a full house demolition then?
Is it?
Well,
yeah.
Of course it is.
I mean, there's still buildings standing there.
There are 3 walls of an addition. The foundation's gone, the utilities are gone, the plumbing's gone. There is nothing left. There's no walls, there's no roof, there's no windows, there's no doors, there's nothing left except a shell of a piece with a bunch of tools thrown around as if they all kind of ran off and, you know, disappeared.
It's hard because, you know, I have no idea who these people are, but every city and town's different. You can leave one wall up and they're all, you know, it's considered okay, or 3 walls, and
this is, you know,
and
I just
or
wondered-
no walls, or a portion of it, and
Well,
you know,
I mean,
percentage.
we
of-
define this as substantial, and one of the things that we were supposed to talk about or after
Right.
tonight is actually to put a percentage on that. And my
I did get a couple. I don't. You've probably all know much more than me, but I did find a couple of good definitions from some other towns too, just for clarification for me and to give to other people also.
I mean, under the historic adaptive reuse bylaw, I believe 25% was the amount we used. Certainly, this is far more than 25%. I doubt that there's 5% of that structure remaining. I mean,
Correct, but
so
somebody would have to determine that
well, I mean, it requires a motion now to say that this is what we consider to be substantial. I would certainly propose that. Again, I don't know that we know. I mean, I think, I mean, I don't think we know the procedure for this because it's never happened before.
that's why I mean, it would be helpful to have Alda's opinion on what process we need to go through.
We
from
know
our-
it's historically significant. It's on our survey, but I think that this has never come up, that we should get town council's opinion. That would be my opinion.
My recollection of this, Rebecca, is that we have to ask Mark Purple first.
Yeah, we do. But I will do that. There's a process. I'm
Okay.
becoming sadly quite familiar with it. All right. Then I will do that. I will check in and see what the next steps need to be. But in the meantime,
Well, in the meantime, you know, Jim, you'd noticed some things on the permitting thing that, you know, that just in the form itself, that maybe there might be some improvements, like
Indeed.
a checkoff box for historical, et cetera, et cetera. So you want to?
Sure. In fact, I'm looking. Hello, Lori. I'm looking at a copy of a building permit -2243 that had this particular property in mind, and then on that one there is a checkbox for historical commission, and it says, in fact, pending. But just before we go to the changes we think might make sense, it appeared to me, and tell me if I'm incorrect here, that this was almost a misleading application. The way this thing happened is that what occurred was it filed for a building permit without anything related to demolition, and that's, you know, the limited amount of information that you had to work with. And what was put in place initially was just a building permit that looked like a little bit of a rehab or a improvement. Is that a good way to think of it?
They said that you're correct. They said they were going, you know, they were removing walls and doing this and that, and you know, roofing, new windows, and et cetera. You know,
remodeling the home.
basically, I don't have it in front of me. I apologize. And I said, well, can I have some plans? And they said, well, we can't come up with framing plans. They had plans that they put, basically just what was existing and not what was proposed.
Could you send us those plans, the existing plans? I think that would be helpful for us. I saw that they were attached to the thing, but we weren't able to download those attachments.
Okay. You can also go in and on any time if you set up, and I'd be happy to send them to you. On Viewpoint, you can, under the building and zoning, you can set up your own. You probably already have it because you have town emails, correct? But go into Viewpoint and put in any address and look at anything there, but I can send them to you. So yes, I asked for that and they said that they couldn't give it to me until, they did some basic demolition, which happens, basically investigative. And I said, okay, at this point, I will just give you the demo only and then not demo the house. Because we didn't, at that point, then if it's an online permit, which most of it is, then we say you need to go to the demolition only permit, which the demolition only permit goes into, what you need to do for history. And we put this all together ourselves, my staff and I, in the last year or so. There was nothing in place before. But if there's any improvements, would be happy to make them. Basically what they needed to do to go through, to get through, and what the procedure was and how we had to have a hearing, et cetera. Or you had to have the hearing. And then once we got the letter of approval, Rebecca has given us a few, then they can move forward with a demolition only at that time. Interior demolition, no.
Correct. Lori, is there anything that we can provide your office that would make it, clearer or easier to go through the process? And I guess
I had asked last year if you wanted to be put on Viewpoint for an approval. You weren't the chair at the time.
Correct.
And they didn't, the chair at the time did not want to be put on that.
That sounds like something that could be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, we will.
Just a
And I worked in Concord for 12 years, and that I was surprised at that I'm used to asking everything, paint color, anything. So I'd be happy to put that in.
Yeah, there's a lot less to ask about here, but
yeah, right.
Are you demolishing it or are you not? Yeah.
Well, for that, right. I've been many districts I was used to.
Right.
So, right. Any other, look at what you have. This obviously is an unfortunate lesson. But for any demo, a checklist that we can include. We have been adding and putting checklists for everything just to get the point across, because there's a lot of information, not for us, but for everybody else also, to get across for a project as a whole. So we can start.
All I can say is that if there's a mortgage holder on that property, they're going to be mighty unhappy because they no longer have a house to mortgage.
So Lori, back to what Michael was mentioning, I didn't take a look at the building permit application. I looked at the demolition application, and there was a couple of small things that might make it better. For example, putting a checkbox on the first page of the application details, indicating whether this building requires historical commission review, and that would be triggered by maybe the age reference in that section, instead of in excess of 50 years to originally constructed prior to 1925, which is how our bylaw is written. Those two things would probably front and center make it more obvious that there may be a checkmark required. I did note in this, as I was looking at this particular building permit, that there is a section built into that for historical commission review. So it's possible that on the application for building permit, there's already some reference to, is this a historical building or not? But maybe building permits in general ought to have a kind of check whether or not this is a historical structure. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. The more checks we can do, the better.
Not to throw red tape at people, but again, this is pretty blatant bulldozing of the sad to lose.
Yes. All right.
Well, we can, if you like, we can draft an email to you with these ideas.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Just so I get the verbiage correct.
So one of the other things that came up in a discussion with the owner of 15 Main was things like, to what degree is, a restoration, trigger you know, a demolition, and maybe Michael's reference of anything up to 25% residual is one. But one of the relative questions that came up is, could I move the historic house? Can I put it on a different foundation further back from the road? Do you run into that type of a request, or would you have a guidance on how that would be viewed if someone said, look, I want to move my home in town?
I have not run across that here. But when you move a home building code wise and zoning wise, obviously you need to meet a lot of avenues for new construction. But if it was a historic home, would you recommend going through the same process? And they're not demolishing it, but maybe it's the location is historic also, the land on which the home sits. So that could be a question. Also, I've not run into that here. What was the second part?
Just the notion of to what degree is
percentage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think if do you have to go to town meeting to change anything in this bylaw also, right? To add?
Not necessarily. We
Yeah,
can
okay.
actually determine our own rules in terms of defining terms.
Okay.
So we actually have, I haven't seen it because I've been out of this for a little while, but we actually have a sort of a handout rule book that defines a lot of these terms. And one of the things that we were going to talk about this evening was tightening up this definition of substantial. I don't think this in any way affects 45 Highland, because
No, I don't disagree. But just moving forward on, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea would be that, you know, if it really alters the, you know, essentially what we care about is the opinion of the, excuse me, not the opinion, but the appearance from the street. So if suddenly there's substantial changes to of housing structures for the appearance of the street, like ripping off a porch or, you know, altering, you know, major portions of the structure, I mean, you know, that's something we do care about because we care about the historic streetscape. What happens inside, we don't care about at all. What happens outside of our purview, we don't care about. But yeah, I mean, so in general, I mean, I guess if you come across things where they're planning substantial alterations to any type of historic structure that is going to change how it looks from how it looks now to how it looks, love for you to, you know, give us the, you know, the high five and let us know what's coming down the road.
So I don't have, I printed out one. Okay, so I had asked that question before. So if somebody's demolishing or windows, for instance, you guys were talking about windows before, in a home that happens to be historic, that's something you want to see? Or
we can't regulate that. We have no authority to regulate that.
So if it's a home that is historic and I just want to clarify for me, right, and they want to rework or reconstruct, take something down and put it back up and it's historic, but let's say it's more than 25%. I mean, or it's less than 25% or whatever percentage you come up with.
Well, I think we need to establish that.
Yeah, because demo definition or alteration.
There must be a
well, there's a definition of demolition in the bylaw.
Yeah, there must be.
And so that's pretty clear. The question is the term substantial. So you know, I think alterations that, you know, make aesthetic changes to the front of the house we don't care about, but you know, if you know this is a colonnaded Victorian with a huge porch and the porch suddenly disappears, I think, you know, that suddenly starts to be within the realm. So I don't know, we'd love to work with you and over the next, you know, meeting or two to you know, make sure everybody's on the same page, you know, just look at these terms. You know, part of it is like writing contracts, right? So, you know, you never know what to write a clause for until someone comes along and, you know, triggers an incident that makes you want to write that clause. I mean, in my business contract has been evolving for 30 years. So, Yeah, I mean, I think that maybe we should be looking at that. Maybe not tonight, considering how long we're going
Yeah.
here.
So
But
let's plan to revisit that and,
Rebecca, do you have that? I don't have the current version of that. I know it had been reworked after I was gone. The rules and regulations.
I don't know if I have it in front of me.
That's fine. I don't need it this second, but
Yeah,
maybe we can put it on the agenda to for next time to look over that stuff and
sure.
get a comment and, you know, see what's what.
Right, okay.
Are the
Rebecca,
rules and
I'll be happy.
regulations different than the bylaw?
They're in addition to, yeah, they are to explain and clarify certain aspects.
And where is that located? I don't know that, honestly, that I've ever seen that. Is that,
I don't know if it has been posted yet
okay. Yeah, I don't remember.
on the town website, or if
See.
it's just in our, what we hand out when people come before us for a public
Oh, I
hearing.
see. Okay. May I have a copy of that too? Because maybe I can incorporate
Yes.
some of that into our language also.
Do you have a copy of what we hand out to people?
Do I?
Yeah, when they,
I-
like,
No,
okay,
no,
I think you should, so we can do that.
no, that's what, yeah, that'd be perfect.
Yeah. I mean, in general, I think the lesson here is that we want to become your best friend.
No, I wanted to
No,
make sure
we-
that I'm relaying the information correctly.
we
and get it
want
out there.
We want a closer working relationship with you. All right.
I had asked this question before, and I don't know if anybody wants to take it on. I did say I can put you on on Viewpoint for an approval process. I can ask all the questions, but would you, when it's maybe in question, who, if anybody, or would you want to be put on as an approval? Like to ask questions that are significant that maybe I miss, or they may not provide, or more information that you would want.
This
That's
would
different from,
Would this strictly be for demolition permits and not all?
it depends on how, I guess you want to, do in your discussion as far as alterations and percentages and
Oh,
things like that. Maybe moving forward.
Yeah.
Well, right. It's a,
That would be a lot.
Well, remember though, we're not talking about alteration. We're talking about demolition.
Yeah, we should, that's what I'm
Okay,
saying. We should
I'm sorry.
confine it to demolition.
right. Okay.
All right.
You don't want to do paint colors?
No.
Do you want to get it tarred and feathered? I know. No.
Well, Lori, thank you for coming and helping
No,
us
thank you.
understand it better.
Hope
Yeah.
to see you in person next time.
Yeah,
and-
I'll
and
try and
please-
figure that one out the next time.
Don't
And,
hesitate to call or email any questions, anything you need to know.
No, thank you. And I definitely will get you those plans. Do you want me to send them to you, Rebecca? And you can
Yeah, that would be
send
great.
them out?
Thank you.
Okay. And yeah, happy to definitely add as much information as we can. Hey, the more the better.
Yeah.
I'm not, they're filling it out, and every time, again, you learn, right? You add it, we add it to it, and it's required before they can even submit. We can put it right on there.
So Lloyd, just to be clear before we go though, so for 45 Highland,
Yeah.
we're just shut down until we have some,
Yeah, absolutely. I told them they were,
okay.
I just didn't post it as a stop work because they don't have anything that they are approved, not that they were approved to do that. But I was going to post it anyway.
Yeah.
I just didn't post it today when I was there because I wanted to have a little bit more discussion with you on that. Because I'm hosting it from the building and.
Yeah, I would dot our I's and Q's here.
Absolutely.
This is not going to be pleasant.
And I will let you know what Aldo has to say about
Okay.
what we need to do next, and how we go forward with this. So thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
thank
And
you.
I will, thank you. Have a good night.
You
Thank you,
too.
Lori.
Take care.
Good night. Okay, let's get in Karen Connell, the poor, she's been waiting a long time.
Or thing.
Is this Karen or Kristen?
Karen, hi.
Karen, hi. Can't see you either. We're having problems with that tonight.
But you can hear me?
We can hear you, yes,
We
certainly.
hear you.
Now, is Kristen here?
Yes, I'm in her house. She'll be back momentarily.
Okay. So you had some questions for us tonight?
I do. I'm just looking for some clarification. I've done some things concerning the list that you have given me. So even though I don't want to sell my house, one thing that I've done is I've reached out to some of my business partners to see if they would be, I have some partners that I do real estate development with. So I reached out to two of them to discuss my home, and I value their opinion, and I listened to them, but I didn't like what they had to say. So, so I discounted that, and I've gone back to the drawing board trying to make this property, not to sell it, but to make it my own home.
Mm-hmm.
So the stumbling block that I keep running into is the foundation itself is so small. And I'm assuming that the foundation is where the original house was, that's the original part of the house, but it really represents less than 10% of the structure that's there now. So that's my question. Can I, and it's kind of a good thing that I heard the agenda item before mine, because I know what not to do. So, so that's kind of a learning lesson there. But what parts of the house would you like me to preserve?
I think it gets back to the question of what is demolition and what is not, and what authority we're granted to regulate that, what you can do and what you don't. I appreciate you're asking what we'd like you to preserve. I mean, ideally, we'd like you to preserve the house as much as possible as it is. But if you're asking how much of it you could demolish and rebuild, again, it comes down to what is a demolition and what is not. Michael, do you want to weigh in on this?
Yeah.
And before you do, though, excuse me, Michael, I guess that's part of the hang up that I have, and that my architect, builder, and other people have. The structure that's at 15 Main Street now, you want me to preserve the whole thing?
Well, I think the facade, certainly, and a substantial portion of the exterior as it stands is our preference. But what we want and what we have authority over are possibly two different things. And I guess the basic question is, if the work that you want to do requires a demolition permit for the entire structure, then we are involved in this process and we can have an opinion. But if the work that you want to do is remodeling, partially, removing something and building it again, that is not triggering a full demolition permit.
Okay, so and I'm interrupting your colleague, and I don't mean to, but let me just give you a little bit more information. So one thing that I'd like to do is I'd like to move the house further back in the lot. And I want to do that so that I can accommodate a circular driveway. It's very unsafe to back out onto Main Street. So I really want to recess the structure so that I can accommodate a circular driveway. And I've already actually even got the curb cuts for a circular driveway. So I want to recess the house into the property. My architect is telling me that the bay window, I guess on the facade, there's a bay window, and he categorically says that that is not historic, that there was no way that there was a bay window when the original owner built the house. And I want more of a, you know, like a Georgian styled house. So that would not have a bay window. So I'm getting confused and mixed messages. What, you know, when the house was built, it didn't have a bay window. So can I remove the bay window?
Yes.
So here's the deal. So I think the easiest way to go about this would be to submit some plans, because individually these questions are yeah, maybe, yeah, possibly. I totally understand about the bay window. There generally were Victorian additions. However, the timeline is 1925, so you know we consider that historic under, you know, the terms of the preservation bylaw. That's not to say that if you want to remove the historic the bay window and do nothing else to the house, we wouldn't have any jurisdiction over it because it's you know, it's under 25%. It's just, so there's a difference, and this is what we were just talking about. I don't know if you were following this whole long discussion. You know, there's a big difference between alteration and demolition. To alter the front facade of that house is totally within your right. Hopefully you'd work with us to make it historically appropriate. If you want to take off that bay window, that's totally within your right, because that doesn't come within our purview. What does come within our purview is when you pull a permit for demolition of the structure, which generally means by and large destruction of the structure. I mean, moving it back, I think, I mean, obviously I'm one of five. I wouldn't have any problem with moving it back if the zoning board of appeals agrees and all the boards and septics and blah, 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 that, you know. But I think the easiest way to do this, in my mind, would be just to develop some plans. I mean, we certainly want to work with you and make this a lovely house for you, and you know, someplace that you want to stay and be in. But you know, without a sort of specific set of proposals, it's hard to you know, it's hard to say. So you know, my vote would be just, you know, have the architect, you know, submit your wish list of things to do, knowing that we would like you to preserve the facade of the house, what we can see from the street. And, you know, let's take it from there. I mean, does that sound reasonable to you?
It does. It absolutely does. But the architect who I've worked with on numerous projects for over 30 years got so frustrated with this particular set of guidelines that he wants to be involved only he doesn't want to be involved in the beginning phases. So he wants me to try and figure out what I can build before he, you know, does all these different renderings. So so specifically if you visualize 15 Main Street, the western wing, that part of the structure it's like a townhouse that's been added onto it. And what I want to do is I'm taking a 3-family home and I'm converting it back into a 1-family house. So what I want to do is remove the addition and then take the original house and move it back. The most cost-effective and the best way structurally and, you know, the best building materials and everything, the very best way for me to do that is to demolish the building and rebuild it with new materials, a poured concrete foundation. And, you know, in 3 years' time, if I were to start this project now, in 3 years' time, anybody driving down Main Street, including this board, you would look at the house and you would not know that it was not, you know, just built. It would be very similar to the structure that's there now, just smaller and better.
So if I understand you, Karen, what you're saying is you're not really, so you do want to demolish the house and sort of recreate something very much like it, but you do want to demolish the house. And so what portions of it we want to be preserved isn't really relevant, because you don't want to preserve any portions of it. You want to tear it down.
Well, no, that's your, it would be wonderful to preserve parts of the house, but I don't see anything worth preserving.
So you want to proceed with the demolition?
I do.
Okay, so the process is the same as we explained the last time, with the steps that we have to go through over the next few months to be in compliance with the demolition delay bylaw.
Okay. So it just, I mean,
Can't hear you, Michael. Michael, you're muted. There you go.
Yeah, here I am back. Sorry. My dog is wanting to go outside, which is why I had the thing on. So, you know, there's the whole process of actually, you know, going through this and moving a portion of it back or preserving the front facade or doing all that stuff, that's very different from demolishing entirely. So if we go down the road of demolishing entirely, we have to go through the entire process of, you know, looking potentially for other buyers, trying to find people who would be willing to do this, because that, you know, granted, we believe you when you say, you know, this house will look like the previous ones and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. That's not what the demolition delay bylaw is for. It's to preserve the actual current structure. And certainly its appearance on the street and its relation to the stuff. So if rather than renovating it in some sort of way or diminishing it, which was what I had taken away from the previous discussion, if your intent is now back to where we started, which was to demolish it entirely, then we have to go through the whole rigmarole. So there's no real point in presenting plans for a rehab structure until we exhaust every possibility of preserving this one. I mean, that's my current reading of where we are.
Yeah, I understand the process. I have respect for the process. It doesn't make sense in this particular case. And what I mean by that is I don't know of anybody that's going to want to preserve the house the way it is.
You'd be surprised.
Okay, well,
I just published a piece on the Southborough Historical Society about the renovations that we undertook here at my own home 30 years ago, moving into it with, you know, no functioning bathrooms and falling out windows and heat. I mean, there are a lot of old house crazies, like I am, maybe not anymore, but at the time certainly was, that would take this on in a second. And especially with the history of this house and part of the Newton family heritage, I really do think that you would find those folks.
Well, and just to clarify, Michael, I do own old homes, and I've restored over 12 homes, 14 homes. So I am one of those people, but I don't see anything at 15 Main Street. You know, it's got vinyl siding. Underneath the vinyl siding is sometimes clapboard, other times like sheet metal I've found. There is, there's all of the old molding in the house has been removed. The flooring itself is, I came across, I believe it was purchased from Lumber Liquidators. It's like a 1990s wood floor. I don't see any historic value in the house. I see historic value in the, you know, in the shape, kind of like the overall essence of the house and the you know, where the house is. And for example, there used to be a barn there, the barn, which I demolished last December. The barn was actually much more historic than the house, as far as building materials are concerned. But I was able to get a demolition permit on that, and that went down in 2 hours.
I'm not sure how or why that happened, but that's, I think what we have to deal with here tonight is, you know, what are you asking us for tonight in this meeting? I'm a little confused. You were asking specifically what we wanted to preserve, and now are you asking us to reconsider our vote from the last meeting?
No, because it seems like you're consistently telling me that you think it's a historic building. So like, okay,
Well,
I respect that.
you know, it is an historic building because underneath the vinyl siding and underneath the old floors are, or the new floors are, the old floors are the structure, the floor plan, the stairway. I mean, it is, the bones of it are there. And, you know, I just this past week took the aluminum siding off our house and revealed the clapboarding, and it was a big process, and oh yeah, you know, it has to be painted and all this stuff, but it's there. So you know, that is the essence of old houses, that they are piecemeal, they've been replaced, they have problems, they have issues, they leak, but you know, that's the story. And you know, I think, I guess I'm with Rebecca, and I'm quite confused about, you know, because we talked about, you know, taking off a bay window or potentially moving the structure back, you know, sort of preserving some of the bones of this house. But now we're kind of back to this whole thing of demolishing the whole thing and building something fresh, which, you know, is just sort of contrary to what we do.
But yeah, the process is in place for that, and you know, we've taken our vote. Kate, did you have a comment?
Yes, I've just been sort of going through the bylaw myself, and I think I said in the last meeting, you know, our appointed role of the commission is just to support the bylaw, and the bylaw does state that any building in whole or in part which was constructed prior to 1925 and is included in the Southborough, Massachusetts Historic Property Survey prepared by the commission. So it's on that. And so I think our role is just to make sure the process of the bylaw is followed through, since it was voted on by the town residents, and that's just our job. at this point.
Silence.
So, I mean, certainly if you have any questions regarding the process and any step along the way of what you need to provide, reach out to us and contact us and continue to, we will put this on the agenda for every meeting going forward, just in case.
Yeah, I mean, the action plan is that. So, I mean, you go through the whole action plan, you get to the end of it. There's no one else interested. There's no other options. These demolition permits have been granted. There was a house on East Main Street that this whole thing went through during the last term I was on, and ultimately it went down. So, I think if you can fulfill the action plan stuff, at the end of the day, there's nothing we can do. It's a delay. It's not a refusal. So I think that's all I can say.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the process, and so I could start working on renovating the house if I were going to leave all of the exterior walls up. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, if you go to the renovation thing, what I would just really urge you to do, and I appreciate the reluctance of your architect, but I'm a little surprised because generally architects love to participate in projects like this because their billing hours go bonkers. But regardless of patience level aside, I think you would find us very happy if we had a building that looked pretty much like it did, preserve the front current facades, and you could do whatever you want on the inside, including reduce the back areas or whatever. And if you just put some plans to paper, even if you want to sketch it out yourself for the next meeting and sort of, talk to us about, some of this stuff, I think that would go a long way to moving this thing forward.
Okay, but when you say the facade, like the whole facade or just the original? So when I say original, I mean there's like the eastern part of the house and the western part of the house. So the part of the house that I live in is the kind of Georgian box that has the bay window in the front. So if I just saved that and tore down the other part of the house, that would be okay?
That would not require a demolition permit to completely demolish the house, so that would not.
Well, no, it would.
Would it?
Because yeah, because it would be a substantial demolition. But again, I think if you had, just if you showed us some plans, we could then say yay or nay.
Yeah, that's true.
We could say, well, just if you do a little more here or a little less there. I mean, essentially, you're on the right track. The Georgian box is the critical factor here. All these little things were L's and additions and bits and pieces that were stuck on at later dates. So, if you could get us back to restoring the original sashes and restoring the clapboard and putting the Georgian front, I don't think anyone would give you arguments about the bay window removal or any of that type of stuff. I mean, if that house essentially went back to its footprint, looking as it did in 1810, I think we'd all be cheering. So, again, I just urge you, even simply just to draw it out yourself and send us some copies. And, we're here to help you. And there's a lot of expertise sitting here in terms of architectural history and other resources. So, we're here to help you.
Well, I appreciate that. I really do. I appreciate all of your efforts. I do have plans. I'll send them over to you. We can talk about it at the next meeting. For me, it comes down to cost. Like it's so costly to do it this way. But, oh well.
Well, I just, again, being in the building trades, I can tell you that renovation costs these days and new building costs are running pretty much consistently $250 a square foot. It can be slightly more difficult to do. I mean, difficulty level is perhaps more in restoration, but you know, there's so much stuff that was in these houses that is now so expensive. I just bought one single little box of 8 pieces of cedar clapboarding. And to give you some idea, it would probably require 10 or 12 of these just to cover a small front of one side of a house. And that was $130. So the building wood costs have just exploded during COVID, and there's so much value in some of these houses in terms of trying to replicate this stuff. You'd be surprised. You're going to be in for $250 a square foot, however you do this. So,
well, just to clarify, Michael, I'm looking closer at $375 a square foot.
well, there you go. So for $375, generally, most restorations can be really pretty well encompassed. So, I mean, it would have to be extraordinary circumstances to, you know, with huge level of fine detail to really move outside of that estimate. So if you're comfortable within 375, you know, I think we can do a lot to work with you.
Okay, one last question, which is, someone asked this of me. In front of 85 Main Street, there's some brick pavers being put in instead of a concrete sidewalk. Would I be entitled to something like that if my house is historic?
I honestly don't know what's going on in front of the sidewalk.
I would expect he paid for that himself.
Yeah. He spoke with the town, and I can't remember if John paid for the rights to do that. But he, in essence, worked through the town to gain the rights to the front, and I think a little bit around the corners of Parkerville and Deerfoot of that sidewalk, with the caveat, I believe, that he is also going to maintain it, including clearing snow and that kind of thing. I believe. I do remember that coming up in discussion, but I'd have to look back to clarify specifics.
Yeah, that was indeed the case, that he said that there were negotiations going on, that that he did this as part of the, you know, but this was also as part of the Main Street renovation.
Part of the Main Street project, yes.
So that was incorporated into it. You know, now with those sidewalks going in brand new, I doubt that they would be too excited about, you know, redoing the sidewalks, but you know, who knows? I mean, these days you write a check for something, you can generally get it done.
Okay. Thank you, Karen.
Thanks for your time, everybody.
Yeah, we'll put you on for next time.
Sorry
Thank
to
you.
keep you waiting so long.
Oh, no, thank you. Thanks for everything.
Great. Okay, gosh. Catherine McKee. You can unmute Catherine. Hi, Catherine.
Good evening.
How are you? I'm so sorry you had to wait so long. This is a long night.
I enjoy your meetings, so.
Well, that makes one of you.
Hey, Kat.
Hey, Kate.
All right.
So can I share my screen? I think it'd be easier if I showed a little bit of a map.
Absolutely, yeah.
Great. So give me just.
Hey, guys, can I ask just a favor? Can we take just a 2-minute break? Is that all right? Yeah. Okay, okay, thanks.
Dog walk.
But I'm gonna run to the restroom.
back. Thank you.
So should I get started or is everyone?
Are we all here? I can't tell.
I'm here.
Here's your- here's
Amanda,
your-
are you back with us?
I'm here.
Okay.
Great. So again, this is Catherine McKee on behalf of the Trails Committee. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we are working on building a new trail. So we are submitting a CPC application to help fund that. And part of the project would be to include historical markers along the trail to highlight relevant history of the Fayetteville Dam, the building of the Sudbury Reservoir, and other relevant history that helps highlight what's gone on in the land before. So what you see here is what we're nicknaming the Peninsula Trail. This is owned by DCR and MWA. Over here in the Sudbury Dam Historic District is where the Fayetteville Dam is. So we are proposing the trail. It's going to be also, this trail would close a gap for two regional trails, the Burroughs Loop Trail, which you may have heard about, that had its grand opening in 2019 in the fall. And it's also the Aqueduct Trail. So this section is South Borough's responsibility and has been. We've been working with MWA and DCR since before 2017 to get the trail going. And we are waiting for DCR to open up this land via a public access plan. But they have given us approval to move forward with our project as far as fencing, some infrastructure and things. COVID did delay their plans. They were planning to open that this year, but it looks like it's going to be 2021. So we wanted to reach out to the Historic Commission and ask for your partnership in helping us, give us guidance on some of the history that we could highlight. DCR has a lot of history. We've been on a few walks, guided walks with them. They have a lot of history about the dam and the structure that we could incorporate. So we would be looking for the Commission's guidance to fact check, make sure that we're representing the, accurate information, and also your guidance, because we are not historians, on, recommendations on where, locations and things that we could highlight. So that's what we're looking to do. This is the Route 30 causeway. Can you see my mouse moving?
Yep.
Yes.
So this
Yep.
clear. Okay, so this is Central Street, and right now this is an existing access road where this trail will overlay. So this will be one point, this will be parking, and we thought it'd be nice to include some sort of marking here to start kind of the trail walk. A marking along the trail back in here. This is all wooded area, and it extends down into the Fayetteville Dam, which is located here. So again, some sort of marker here. And these are just preliminary locations, just a brainstorm. Then the trail technically goes to Route 30 for just a small distance. And we just opened up right as you cross over into Framingham. There's the bridge that was built in 1898, the Twin Arch Stone Bridge is located here. So that's what this marker indicates. It would be nice to kind of highlight that structure. This 0.7 miles goes, it's a connector we just opened up this September. And instead of having to walk along Route 30 in Pine Hill and Clemens to get up to this Bay Circuit Trail that travels along Sudbury Reservoir, you can now take this connector trail through the wooded area and along the Stony Brook Dam. So this is an area where we'd like to highlight some of the building of the dam and such. And then this, there's also the Fayetteville Dam Gatehouse that was built in 1894 that you can see from the trail. So this, again, something we could highlight. And then perhaps up here, this is where the DCR, another DCR access road exists, and it's also a trail that goes up to Parmenter and in Marlboro. So what we're looking for is a letter of support if you're interested in helping us with the project. The only ask from tonight's meeting is a letter of support that we could include with our CPC application.
That's really great. I think that's great. I am wholeheartedly in support.
Great.
I am too. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. So I think we will definitely take a vote on that and get that out to you. Does somebody want to make a motion?
I motion that we support this trail project for the CPC application.
I second that.
Okay, we'll do the roll call. Michael Wysan,
Yes.
Kate Battles,
Yes.
Amanda Gleason.
Yes. Yes.
Jim Blaschke,
Yes.
Rebecca Deansrose is yes. So it's a unanimous support.
Could I ask a question, just as maybe you mentioned the this and I missed it. Is there a cost estimate for doing these markers that knows how large is that application going to be?
Yes, it's a great question. So the historical markers will be part of a larger application. We have some fencing to do. There's some infrastructure within this area that needs to be fenced, a pump house and things like that. And we need to extend the fence along the reservoir here. So we're working with arrow fencing on that, and we should have a quote within a week. And as far as historical markers, it's going to really depend on what type of markers we use. So we're going to be getting a few quotes for different types of markers. And one of the things we'd look to, so any marker that's along the trail might be more of a kind of a rustic blending into the environment type of marker. But if it's maybe at a trailhead, we could do something a little bit nicer that might cost a little bit more. So that estimate is forthcoming depending on what we decide to do. And again, we'd look to the commission to kind of help us make some suggestions, because we hope that these markers will obviously be long-term, and we want them to, you know, be a nice representation for Southborough and something that we can be proud of. So, you know, we would look for some of that. And just to note also, this isn't the only section. So this is what we're focused on now, but it would be nice. And I know that there's been talk with the EDC and other organizations of kind of bringing some more historical markers into town and linking trails to downtown and things like that. So just so you know, longer term, we are hoping that we can work with other organizations to bring more markers throughout town. So we would probably approach you in a way that, you know, looking for guidance in those things too.
Wonderful. I'm sure Michael can provide a lot of information.
Yeah, thank you. Great. So it sounded like, which was surprising, I thought our deadline was the end of the month, but the previous conversation, it seemed like there was a deadline of the 13th, which is...
Yeah, I'll have to check. Yeah, that would be nice.
That would be nice. So yeah, I think if it depends on, you know, what your time frame is, but if we could get something, you know, in the next week or so, I can double check with the website's not updated for the deadline, so I'm not really sure why different information. So I do want to double check with my contact at CPC to see if it is the end of the so I can let you know.
So Catherine, just so you know that we've talked to the Southborough Community Fund, and we've also are talking to various other folks about sort of a 2-mile walking trail that starts essentially at Lamy Insurance and then loops up to 85 Main Street and then 84 Main and then back down again. So we're in the process at the Historical Society of thinking about preparing that material. We have it all. We just want to get the funding for it in order to do it. But so that is in the works. And of these spots that you have noted, I can already write you most of these markers because there's just really interesting stuff where the Southborough Auto Tech is. That was the original Main Street into town. So, you know, that was all flooded and there was a huge mill there, of which we have pictures. We have pictures of a lot of the farmsteads that were out on that peninsula on the back. Obviously, you get to the Sudbury Dam District, there's 1,000 things there. So, and we have a huge amount of documentation of all of this area, thanks to the MDC when they were doing their thing. So I personally am happy to help you with that. And help you, do this stuff. I just would urge you to, when you're looking at this stuff, I know we did a lot of work with one of the Boy Scouts Eagle projects a couple of years back that
Alex Flynn.
did some of the markers there. They haven't weathered terribly well. And there was a lot of work that went into them. So, thinking about how to do that and make this stuff so that it has longer than like a 5-year lifespan would be a great idea.
Thank you for that suggestion. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
This is a question. You're going to take these funds come out of the recreation tranche of CPC, right?
Yes, so it's building a new trail, not maintaining, is my understanding, and that why it would qualify. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much for your patience and for
Oh
all
yeah,
this great work.
And we look forward to hosting you back at the museum again some year.
Oh, well, you guys have a great night.
Thank
All right.
you.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Bye-bye.
Very
Oh,
good,
we
you
need our
too.
screen back.
I'll stop sharing now. Okay. Good night.
All right. Thank you. Well, now it's a great pleasure to welcome Annie. She might be reconsidering her decision now.
Or not.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can't see you though, which seems to be the
Oh.
story of all night long.
Does. That's a shame.
Who's in charge of promoting these folks? I don't understand this whole
It's
promotion.
like not me.
Voting everybody. So I'm not really sure what's going on with the, the connection on the other end, but everybody's been promoted to panelist.
Oh, there she is.
There she is.
Hello. Oh, there she is. Hello.
Hi. So how did it go tonight at the Board of Selectmen?
Oh, it was great. So they all, supported my application, which was really exciting.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you. I'm so excited to get involved. And I have to say, your meeting tonight has been such a great introduction and learning experience for the type of work you guys do. And hopefully I'll be ready to jump right in.
I bet you
Well,
will.
these days, as I found out, you don't have to be sworn in. So now you are actually technically already part of the organization.
Oh, really? Okay.
And whatever Jim Haggerty was planning for me.
I'm telling you, in case he still does it, Michael.
Okay.
He's on vacation right now.
I know, it better be good. I don't want any bad surprises.
No,
He
it's
was
good.
some surprise when he thought he still had to swear me in, but
No, it's a good one. It's a good one.
But Annie, you'll have to dedicate an hour or so to the ethics questionnaire. There is
Oh
that.
yeah, that's.
Oh, yeah.
oh,
But
Yeah.
forgot about that. It's
Yeah,
not
you-
still that horrible thing with the push button.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
And you
how,
hunted
Annie,
down.
how long have you been in
Get that
Southborough? Sorry, I'm sorry, Kate.
Oh,
That's all right.
so I've lived here for just about 3 years.
Okay.
But my husband actually grew up in town. So he has he's been, associated with the town since like 1990. So he goes way back and we're happy to be back here together.
Nice. Well,
Yeah.
it's great to have you.
Thanks.
And then they were 6.
Yay. Now 2
All we
people
need
can
is
get
one
sick.
more, and we would have an historic compliment, because I don't think ever in all the years that I've been associated with this organization, which, as I've mentioned earlier, would be going on 18, have we ever had close to I think we briefly did when Mandy and
Maria.
were on board.
Yeah.
And then,
And then
Kate,
I
you
joined.
came- yes, then
then
and then
we
they
both
both
left.
bolted. Yeah.
Are we going to have? Oh no.
I know.
So now's a good time to set the date for the next meeting, since we are all here.
Well, hang on. Before we go there, I think I got the impression that they were kind of hoping for something, a little discussion about the town hall thing. Do we have anything more to say on
that's
that?
Well, I was impressed, I have to say. I was very impressed with the architect, with the, you know, what they're planning to do, quality of the work, the fact that they'll be replicating the windows pretty faithfully and not using aluminum this time. I don't know if there are, does anyone have an outstanding question or concern about it? I'd like to hear everyone else's thoughts.
No, I was impressed. I believe she spoke at the last town meeting that we
Yes,
had.
yes, with the library, I remember
Oh, the
now.
library, you're right.
Yeah.
I was impressed. You know, at first was nervous about what would be proposed, but I thought it sounded good. I thought the windows looked really nice. I think it was well done, well thought out, and I think it would, hopefully it would really just highlight that beautiful building. And I was gonna say too about that front door, because I do spend a lot of time in that room. It actually, with the glass, it's just the views and the vistas of what will hopefully be our, you know, historic district. It's quite lovely right there. It had to have it closed up with, even though that's accurate, would be.
I'm inclined to agree. I just think the wood on it is nasty and
terrible.
attractive.
Agreed.
Well, it was 1990, you know.
Yes.
And, you know, the original architects never envisioned anyone spending any time there. It was a vestibule. It was a coat area, you know.
Right.
So, you know, I think that's a great change. I'm less excited about the thing they built on the back of it, but, you know, that was necessary for access. I was impressed with Lynn when she gave that presentation at the library.
Yeah.
There's obviously been a lot of work going into this. When they proposed this the last time around, when Kate was around, it was just like, oh, you know, hey, we had these windows and they've done them in other places and, you know, blah, blah, blah. This seems really thought out as a largely well-considered renovation project, restoration project. Whether the townsfolk are going to, you know, go for this. I mean, you know, frankly, the CPC budget, they don't have this money. I mean, you know, they exhausted this long ago for the money for 84 Main Street, which they took out a bond issue for. So, you know, this is all sort of imaginary dollars. And suddenly, you know, when we did this first thing for 84 Main, we were the first project that actually had come for them ever for historical funds. And I remember Freddie was, you know, begging the historical commission to come up with historical projects. Well, now everyone wants to tap this fund.
Yeah.
You know, the library is tapping it to the tune of $1 million. I think that's a bond issue. So I don't know, but from an historical, you know, if you ask my opinion about the historical validity of this, I would say yes. I'd be happy to give them that letter this evening, frankly.
I mean, I like the idea before with the windows they were talking about, they wouldn't have lasted more than 20 or 30 years. And, you know, it seemed crazy to take out these windows that had been there for 150 years that could have been restored. But these windows that she's proposing, I think will look incredible, probably be hard to distinguish from what was there originally.
Impossible to distinguish, frankly.
And they need to be able to.
And they need to be functional.
They do. You know, I spend enough time in there, and they're big, they're heavy, they are always abutting desks, and you know, I was impressed with. I appreciated all the pictures that she shared of what they would look like in the side by sides. I think it could be really a beautiful project.
Am I correct in understanding that they wouldn't require a storm, right?
Yeah.
That's right, because they'd be double pane therm,
Right.
they would be replicated, and they were good looking windows.
They are nice.
Not just that, I think the comment that he made about look, if anybody tries to handle a storm window of a 10-foot by 3-foot size, that's dangerous in and of itself. Never mind being able to play with it enough to open a window. If you can put a double hung window in there with an adequate sash and counterweight, it's not going to be that hard to lift. It'll work smoothly as opposed to trying to get an old window to move around. So functionally be able to get light, air in there, and the look of those. I think it would just be a joy to see it done that way, as opposed to trying to, fix an old, old item.
I would want them though to try to save the glass. Especially in some of these large panes of glass, as crazy as it sounds, there are all sorts of artisans and people, and also, I think you could probably sell it, frankly. We'd like some of it for the historical museum for when we have broken panes and other stuff, because that the glass and some of those sashes, I don't know how much of it is actually original. I would guess fairly little, but I would say some percent of it is pre-1930 with its little waves and contours and stuff. So I think with a contingency to say that we want some dibs on the whatever can be conserved within price boundaries. I just, once she was involved, Lynn's firm, because they are working with St. Mark's. As a matter of fact, I texted Jim. I said, we need to get this woman on board for the museum for the paint and the windows, because we have the same problem. We have these huge, immense windows that are unable to be opened, unable to be closed. They all have 2-inch gaps where we're open to the sky on top of them. There's no storm windows at all, because they all cracked off and broke when they tried to clean the windows. So,
and I think then we need to just get more buntings too.
I do too. That was,
Yeah.
we have those buntings, by the way. I found them all in the basement. There's a huge box labeled front facade buntings. So they're all there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hang those suckers up.
Probably eaten by mice by this time, but you never know.
if the money's not in the CPC bucket, I don't know. Well, anyway.
Well, my understanding is that they bond that out. So they borrow the money essentially, which they add into the price, which is what I think they did for 84 Main Street. So, but that's their gig. Do we have a rep on this?
No.
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 Annie.
They haven't even been able to meet.
Annie.
Welcome to the Historical Commission.
Welcome.
Annie.
We have a job for you.
Annie, we have your first assignment.
Okay.
We need you to go and be our rep on the CPC. How would you like that job?
Sure. Bring it on.
Yes.
I don't know what that entails, but I'll figure it out.
Make a motion, quick, somebody.
I make a motion that we appoint Annie Fox to the CPC as our representative.
I second it.
Yeah.
In seconds.
I do. I second.
All right, let's
I
call
fired
it.
Annie. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Oh no. It's all good.
If we're done with that, I just wanted to add one more
Wait.
thing.
We have to have a vote.
Oh, sorry.
Vote.
Okay, Michael Wyson,
Yes.
Kate Battles,
Yes.
Jim Blacksheep,
Yes.
Amanda.
Amanda.
Yes.
All right, it's Rebecca Deansborough, yes, unanimous. Can Annie vote for herself?
No, not yet. I don't think. But so what it involves is that the CPC Community Preservation Fund is a committee in and of itself, and that all these things that they were talking about letter of recommendation, that is where they're reviewed and voted upon. We were supposed to, and had long since nominated, we are supposed to have a representative from the Historical Commission sitting on that board. So Rebecca will nominate you for that, and then that will mean you'll have like one more meeting a month or whatever to attend. But that's our way to know what's going on in the world, with the CPC stuff, and we have a lot of stuff in front of them as well. So it's a great thing, and
Awesome.
we're really thrilled.
Now we tell you what it is after we've voted.
I noticed that.
You like how we do that?
Actually, what it is that, you know, we're sending you to the lion's den.
I'm so excited to get involved. This sounds awesome. So it's all good.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. And then, you know, not only that, you get a really interesting view of sort of all these different projects, recreation.
It is true. It is kind of interesting to see
Yeah,
everything
it is.
that comes
It is.
before them.
And our dear Kate Madison, who, our dear lovely friend, now left us, was our longtime rep there, and so she kept things in hand. And it's been a problem that we haven't had anyone there for a while. So yes,
Happy to help.
All right.
I have one more thing.
Yes, ma'am.
So I just wanted to say that I'm not really sure what today is. Oh, okay. I think on Friday, I think it was Friday, I did send our little blurb and picture of our historic house sign program.
Oh, excellent.
So I sent that in to Beth at my Southborough. I have not heard back from her yet. I don't know what, you know, the process typically is, if she'll reach out back to me or not, but I did send her the whole write-up that Jim and I had done together, including a picture of the signs. So, and I had said, you know, as soon as she's able to post that. So take a look out for that on my Southborough.
Cool.
Great.
so just Rebecca, do we want to try to vote for this thing for the town hall, or do you want to think about this more?
Well,
I know you're emotionally
yeah.
emotionally compromised, to quote Spock. And Annie, the reason is, and Amanda, that our dear friend Kate again was very diametrically opposed to replacing these windows. So she had led the campaign for many years. This has been up many times. However, I do think that the technology and the time and the thing has changed sufficiently, you know, not to mention the COVID considerations, but, you know, I think if she were here with us, she might give her grudging consent.
Now, what are they looking for from us? Just a letter in support?
A letter of support for the application.
You know, again, if they're going to tap this historical tranche of money, which is I think where they're going to try to go, without our letter of support, I don't think they're going anywhere, because it's required by the state.
I actually think it's a lovely, well done project and proposal, and just could really highlight the town hall even more, you know, with just beautifully historically preserved.
I mean, this isn't an option that we were presented with last time. So,
I mean, why don't we give them a tentative letter of support saying that, you know, that with the information that have been presented to us, we are in favor and we look forward to seeing the final details of the proposal.
That sounds great.
I like that.
Yeah.
Do we need to vote on that?
yes.
Okay, then I nominate that we vote, or I propose that we vote
We
for,
need to make the motion.
I
Michael?
make a
since-
motion that we vote in support of the town hall project.
I
No
second.
recommendation.
Oops, Kate beat me to it.
I beat you.
All right.
jumped it.
Roll call. Kate Battles,
Yes.
Jim Blacksky.
Yes. Yes.
Amanda
Yes.
Gleason, and Michael Wysand,
Yes.
and Rebecca Dingsrow. Yes. A reluctant yes.
Oh. Well, but just to make sure that what we're saying is that we're giving them their tentative approval pending the final review of the process, so that we can still say, you know, something has gone wrong here. But I just, you know, because there were some little things about, you know, what materials, what did finish, blah blah blah,
Mhm.
blah 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 blah. So, you know, let
So-
them, you know, because I think what they're because without really our saying okay, they really can't go to the CPC and get this started. But I think we still have time to say no.
Well, we'll have to say pending something, support pending.
Final review of the proposal.
Final review of plans.
Right. All right.
And if Kate Madison comes down and haunts us all tonight, you know what happened.
I'm sending her to your house, Michael.
Yep.
I love you, Kate. Love you.
So pending final review. So we have 2 draft letters of support for CPC projects. And Amanda, I know you have the minutes to do. Are you able to do the letters as well?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, well, reach out if it looks like you can't, and
Okay.
Well, they're pretty simple, right? I mean, it's just
Yeah.
like, yeah, I mean, Amanda, if you need some help, just let me know, because I have some time. So, and I can certainly generate the text of those letters and someone put them on letterhead or do whatever.
Yeah.
Thank you. We have some that we did before too. We've
Yeah.
given some letters of support, so I can use one that I've written before, probably for the basic.
I mean, ultimately, when it comes time, there'll be all these long formulaic things about, yes, we voted it's historically significant. Yes, we
Oh,
vote.
yes, and I have all that. So.
Yeah.
And I will reach out to Aldo regarding 45 Highland and find out what the next steps should be, and I will nominate Annie for CPC. So
we gotta buy this girl a drink.
I know, someday.
What did I get myself into?
You never know just how much we love you.
We all take turns doing this eventually, I think. Maybe.
So you see, we're a fun group, you know. It's not terrible.
And Michael, I don't, research for those signs, but you've got it all in your head, so I don't think you have to.
I mean, we have so much stuff on that.
Yeah. So we set a date for the next meeting, and then.
Yeah, can we do it at 6 o'clock so we're not like at 10 o'clock at night?
Yeah,
again?
absolutely. I will do that. Is that everyone's preference?
Yes, please.
Yep.
Or even earlier. I'd go as earlier as you guys were willing to go.
6 is probably my early start.
Okay.
I would ordinarily, if I didn't have an 8-year-old around, I'd say but 6 is fine.
Okay. What date, my dears?
About a month from now.
A month from now is the October 20th.
That I absolutely can't do. I have a big event on the 21st.
Ooh.
How about the 27th?
Looks good to me.
That's open.
You can do it.
You're fine.
Okie So at 6 p.m.
6 p.m.
Okay.
So it is written.
So say we all.
All right. I guess that's wow. That was
No Babylon 5 folks here. So say we all. Oh my God.
Yeah, sorry. It's too
very
late.
sci-fi.
Too late. Too late.
All right, I do move to adjourn.
Second.
In favor.
No rush, but
Yeah.
It's great to be back.
Adjourned at 9:41.
9:41.
My God. I feel like I'm at a planning board meeting, guys.
Sorry, they're not usually this long, Annie.
I know. I have
That's
another
good
one.
to know. That's good to know.
No, we are not.
Yes. Well, hopefully that whole business on Highland will resolve. I have a feeling it's going to be not easy. Yeah.
Mhm.
But we'll see. We'll see.
all right,
right.
everybody, good to see you.
Great.
Yeah,
Guys,
you all.
welcome back again,
Bye.
Michael. Welcome, Annie. Have a
Thank
good night,
you.
everyone.
Oh, yes. We're so
Everyone.
excited. Safe travels, everybody.
Night.